Pat Mayo Hour.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Hour. We are doing UFC Stockholm. Yerp, yerp, yerp.
Okay, I was gonna think you sounded German there a little bit,
No,
but then
I saved it with the yerps.
yeah, you got it with the yelps at the end.
The yerps from the Swedish chef.
Yeah, absolutely. Right
Cody
in the
Saftic.
Alpines.
So,
Yeah, back.
what's with the UFC taking like weeks off, and now they're in Sweden?
This is probably what most fans want, not myself. But that being said, last weekend I still got Invicta, I got Bellator, I got Titan FC. Life goes on, brother. It's not all about the UFC, although the UFC, top game in town. So always happy to talk about it.
Were these cards, was last week the Bellator Rory McDonald card?
Yes.
Did he win?
Yeah, thrived.
Was it by decision or submission? Or?
Submission round 2. Took him down. Literally, like, they showed him a picture, or they showed a picture of Rory before the fight and a picture of Rory after the fight. Same guy. Like, you could just not tell that he was in a fight whatsoever. He just took Daly down, controlled him, choked him out in the second round. Pretty flawless.
Good news, because someone in the newsroom was like, I got a lock bet for you. It's Rory McDonald by decision. And just, that guy's always wrong, so I didn't listen to him. So I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah. Before the fight, they were talking to the British media, and they were like, Paul Daly's a live dog here. I was like, of course you're going to say that. You know Paul Daly. You've interviewed Paul Daly 100 times. You might even consider Paul Daly a friend. But logistically speaking, Rory McDonald's been in a couple wars, so doesn't really want to he doesn't really want to stand and bang with Paul Daly. He's just going to take him down. Well, Paul Daly will be able to stop that. No, he won't. And this is exactly what happened. Now, the submission, that's a little bit surprising because putting Paul Daly away is still very difficult, but nonetheless, Rory McDonald's obviously one of the top welterweights in the world for a reason, and Paul Daly's a guy that's 34 years old. He's looking at the end of the road pretty shortly here.
Cash game team for UFC Stockholm.
Yeah, okay, so here's first and foremost what I want to get out of the way is that this is a very difficult card. The big favorites are big favorites. Therefore, on DK, you can't just take all the favorites. You got to get some dogs in. The dogs are bad value, so you look at this, and you've got the entire list of value. You can look at the top 6 guys, or the bottom 6 guys, I should say.
And they're all terrible?
Well, they're not all terrible, but you really got to be like, okay, I'm reaching for who's going to get one here. So when you're looking at a cash game purpose, even if you are reaching, which one of these guys is durable enough that they'll be able to hang around? So first and foremost, we're going to start at the bottom this time around. I'm going to go with Amari Akhmedov, $7,100. Here's what I like about Amari Akhmedov. Not necessarily a traditional cash game play. I could see people going in a different direction with this one, but for $7,100, I need someone who's cheap. Amari Akhmedov he's fairly durable, and I know saying that he's been knocked out in the past, and I know saying that he's been finished by guys like Sergio Moraes, who are not even strikers to begin with, but at that Russian, Dagestani, combat Sambo background, he will take you down, he will take you into deep waters, and he will do whatever he can to control you. He was up 2 rounds against Moraes before getting clipped in the 3rd round. What we see against Kyle Noak is a guy that if he gets down to his grappling roots, he can really control guys. If he keeps standing, he can just close that distance and land on you. The thing with Razak Al-Hassan is coming out of Duke Rufus's gym, he's obviously got that striker-first mentality. But this is someone who's only 7-0 in his pro career. Not the youngest fighter also, by the way.
Undefeated.
Undefeated, comes from a kickboxing background, and if you're going to play GPP, I could see you going Al-Hassan because Amari Akhmedov has been finished in the past, and at 7-0, he's finished all those fights as well. The thing with him is that normally, Pat, he finishes in like 30 seconds, a minute. So in his UFC debut, he draws Charlie Ward, who's by far the worst guy in the roster. Now, Charlie Ward is Irish, and they've got this big European thing going on, so, hey, you know what? Charlie Ward, let's get behind him. He's a big guy, he's got some size behind him. He gets murked. So now there's a lot of hype for Al-Hassan. But you got to remember, first and foremost, this Duke Rufus guy is a kickboxer by trade. Amari Akhmedov is a combat Sambo guy from Dagestan by trade. So he's going to look just to close that distance, get a hold of him, and ragdoll him. And if you think, well, you know what, I think Al-Hassan will be able to keep the fight standing. Possibly, but we've never actually seen Al-Hassan in the 2nd round, let alone in the next 2 minutes of a fight, really, for the most part. So even if he comes out hot fire and he hurts Akhmedov, or the fight just simply ends in the 1st round, or doesn't end in the 1st round, sorry, then 2 and 3 should favor Akhmedov. You would think. He's got way more experience. He's been in the latter halves. He's fought the better competition. And quite frankly, he's got the good stylistical matchup here that will be able to favor him, I think. So even though I don't love this as a cash game, and I can see it being better fit for a GPP, I do see some merit in Amari Akhmedov. Moving on, we got Trevor Smith. Here's the thing with Trevor Smith. Trevor Smith's a guy that's been absolutely obliterated in his career, or he's shown a decent amount of grind, resiliency, and durability.
So what are we hoping to get out of these guys? Like a decision loss?
No. In Akhmedov's case, I honestly
think he can win?
Yeah, I think he can win, and I think that if he tires out Al Hassan, he might be able to get a finish. But more than likely, he's be able to get a decision win, just maybe losing the first round, winning 2 and 3. Or if he secures the takedown, Pat, I see no reason why Omari Akhmedov can't just get the win cleanly.
Okay.
What we're looking at Trevor Smith is, here's the thing with Trevor Smith. He's a guy that's like 50-50 in the UFC. Wins one, loses one, wins one, loses one. If you're a good striker and you've got good power punching abilities, you'll put this guy away. You'll clip him, you'll knock him out. But if you're someone who's susceptible to the takedown and that grind and that, that 3 rounds of constant pressure, then this guy's a nightmare. He's always in fantastic shape. Now, he's coming in on short notice here, replacing Magnus Siedenblad. But Chris Camozzi's a guy that's also a 50-50 fighter in the UFC. The thing with him is that he doesn't deal well with grapplers. We see that whenever he loses. You look at his last 2 fights. Talis, a fight that people were giving him a shot in, but Talis goes in there and he just grinds him. He uses the takedown. He pressures him up against the fence. He tires him out, and he wins clean. It's a clean victory for Talis. Now he rebounds against Dan Kelly. Now, a lot of people are favoring him here. Surely he's going to be able to beat Dan Kelly, who's one of the older guys on the roster, who's someone who's been around the block a couple times. But Kelly neutralizes him and once again uses that takedown. Now, Trevor Smith's a guy that's been knocked out 4 times in a minute or less. One time was a minute and 5 seconds, but we're going to round down here. 3 of those times are actually in like 30 seconds or less. So his chin's not great, but if you're not a power puncher and you don't hit him, you don't knock him out, he's going to grind you. In this case, Camozzi, not a power puncher. He knocked out Joe Riggs, which was an unfortunate arm break due to some knees. But outside of that, he's a guy that needs to rely on the grind as well. So I really look at Camozzi as a guy that we've seen the best out of him, and we've seen the best out of Trevor Smith. But Trevor Smith in wins over Dan Miller, he can show you that even against another black belt, once he gets you down, it's very hard to get up. And Camozzi's proven, especially when fighting black belts, that if he's on his back and you're on top of him, he's not likely getting up. His cardio, which is supposed to be, everyone talks about how good his cardio is because he trains at elevation, he trains in Colorado, but really in the 3rd round when the getting's really tough and it's 1-1 and he really needs to stick it into second gear, he just hasn't been able to do that into the UFC at this point. So Trevor Smith, $7,100. Once again, or $7,300, sorry. Once again, they could go out there and get knocked out because they have been knocked out in the past, but we're going to play the fact that at good value, they're better picks than the rest of the guys that are around them.
Yeah, so let's flip to the top then, because you're going with your boy Pedro here on both teams, and you're going to give an alternate lineup too, a bonus lineup. Is he on that one too?
I believe so. Well, Pedro Munoz is going to be a little bit, $9,500, he's just very, very safe. Like, when you look at Damian Stasiak.
Like knockout safe?
Well, both, I would say, because he's really worked on his striking. He's a BJJ, world-class BJJ practitioner, former world champion, guy that's a current black belt, and a guy that if you go to the ground with him, you're going to be in all sorts of trouble. But this is MMA. You can't just be a one-trick pony. And because of that, he's worked a lot on his wrestling, but he's also worked a lot on his striking. Now, if he gets in a straight match with a guy who's a better striker than him, yeah, he's going to get hit, he's going to get clipped. But the guy's got high ring IQ. He's still fairly young in his MMA career.
And he's taking on Sean Stasiak, the former meat from WWF.
Yeah, Damon Stasiak, not the WWE performer, but Stasiak to a certain degree is a lot like Pedro Munoz, and just he's a poor man's Pedro Munoz.
Like the AHL version?
Yeah, he's just like that very, very low-level version of him. He wants to grapple. He's got a grapple-first mentality. I think he's a brown belt. He comes from a judo background, so that does make them a little bit different. He's been trying to work on his striking, but his striking doesn't really go for him. He can get you in trouble if he can get you down, and he can get that submission on you. A lot of people weren't giving him a shot against Davy Grant, but he's able to grind Davy Grant out, tire him out, open that opportunity, and get that submission. And that submission has been good to him, because if he can lock that up on you, he's on a 2-fight winning streak because of it, that's great. But when you look at the level of competition that Damon Stasiak's fighting in comparison to the level of talent that Pedro Munoz is fighting, it's not even comparable, not even at all. So here's the thing with Damon Stasiak. He needs to get the fight to the ground and he needs to grapple. But that's something that's just not going to be an option here against Pedro Munoz. So as a result, he's going to have to keep it standing. And out of both guys, who's made the bigger stride standing, it's going to be Pedro Munoz. So if this thing goes to 3 rounds, which I don't want it to go 3 rounds, and $9,500.
Yeah, but I mean, we can still make a... We've seen guys go 3 rounds and a decision win and score a lot of DK points.
Well, and so there's the other thing. He's going to get takedowns. He's going to get ground transitions. He's going to get ground and pound. And if the fight stays standing, he's still going to be able to get an active jab out there, a good right cross. He's going to be able to work him a little bit. So if it goes to decision, I still see him getting 80 points. And best case scenario, he's able to put a guillotine choke on him, finish him, take him out of there within 2 rounds. Everyone's happy. Pedro Munoz with a big win. I think he has the abilities to do all that. Now, people might say, well, why take Pedro Munoz over a guy like Misha Turkinov? Well, Misha Turkinov's 205 pounds. So there's a lot more variables at 205 pounds when you're taking on that big of a guy in Volkan Oezdemir, a guy that's fought as high as 235 and comes from a kickboxing background, whereas Stasiak literally does the same things that Pedro Munoz does, only worse. So I like Pedro Munoz. I think he's going to be the biggest favorite on the card. The line opened up. He was 5.5 to 1. He's already jumped to 7.5 to 1. So
like minus 750.
minus 750. So people are behind him. I myself am one of those people. I do think he's got a great shot. I don't agree with the minus 750. That's a little crazy here. It's MMA. But Pedro Munoz should be able to get the win, barring some freak injury, barring him get clipped with Damien Stasiak's not a power puncher, so I think he gets the win.
Is there any line? You said this is MMA, minus 750 seems rather extreme. Is there a certain line that it could get to where you would just blindly bet the other way? Just being like, hey, it's MMA. This guy could win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Like if it's like
speaking,
minus 1,000 and it's like 6-1 on the other side, you bet the 6-1?
Yeah, well, how big is the biggest favorite that you've ever seen in MMA?
I don't know. I won money on some loser who like threw the fewest amount of significant strikes ever. What was that guy's name? We had him in the Toutmaster pool too. Darren Elkins, maybe?
Hey, Darren Elkins, good time. So
was he the guy who won like a month ago?
Well, he was a plus 750. To put things into perspective,
he was
for you.
plus something, and it was just like, this seems rather extreme.
So to put things into perspective for you, the biggest favorite of all time in MMA is like minus 1,500. So let's say the opponent was like plus 900, I think, something in that ball field. In boxing, you're like routinely like plus 3,500.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys plus 3,500. So in boxing, they've got to dial down to there's literally almost no chance. But in MMA, there's always a chance. So putting 10-1 on someone's always going to be risky because there's not a great return on it. You have to go prop betting. So in Pedro Munoz's case, now you're thinking, does he take this guy out? I think yes. Stasiak's proven to be durable in the past, but I think you would take it inside the distance.
So you take it inside the distance, maybe even like just go like minus round and a half? Get real risky? Because that probably pays like close to even money.
I would take over 1.5
Over
rounds.
1.5
I would take
rounds?
over 1.5 rounds in that, but yeah, no, it'd be risky. You'd be biting your nails the whole time, sweating one out.
Darren Till is $9,000.
Yeah, Darren Till's actually been off for a year and a half. That does worry me. But the flip side to that, when he left the UFC, he was like 23. So now he's 25. Not that big of a deal.
Why was he off? Hurt?
Yeah, well, in his
Drugs?
last fight against Nicholas Dalby, you know what's strange you say that. I thought there was, for whatever reason, I thought that there was a story about him getting, red flagged or something. But turns out,
He's fine.
No chance. Yeah, so his last fight against Nicholas Dalby, he wins the first round. He drops Dalby. Good round for him. Second round, he wins against Dalby. Third round, he actually dislocates his shoulder and then takes a beating as a result because he's on the ground and he can't get up. Dalby's coming on strong. He hears the crowd going crazy, and it's 10-8 round Dalby. But he survives even with the shoulder bummed out, and he gets a draw out of it. So he was 13-0 at the time. Now he's 13-0-1. Still undefeated, but does have that draw. He did look good in the first 2 rounds against Dalby. Prior to that, he took on Wendell Oliveira in his UFC debut. That was an even money fight. I liked Till a lot going into that fight. Wendell Oliveira is a guy that, has something 30 pro fights. So if you're a young kid like Darren Till who hasn't really been tested, it was a good little fight for him. Takes him down, nasty elbows from side control, from half guard, pounds him out. It's a good win. The kid's looking good. The fact that he's been off the year and a half would be troublesome, but the fact that he's so young would really mean that he's been in the gym. I'm sure he's been learning stuff. On the UFC questionnaire, I know I bring this up all the time. One of the questions is who's your hero? His hero is himself. And it was like, what does fighting in the UFC mean to you? And this is back when he was like 22 when he signed with the UFC. He had filled this out. What does it mean fighting in the UFC? I can show everybody I'm the best in the world. Confidence is something that this guy is high up on. The one risk I do see here in Yesin Ayari is that Ayari's not willing to really engage. If you look at his fight with Jim Wallhead, he stays on the perimeter a lot, always on the outside, always on his bicycle. Even when he does get rocked, he comes back fairly quickly, gets up, moves again. Judo Jim has a terrible game plan. I mean, Judo Jim's flat-footed. He's pretty slow. He doesn't look for the takedown whatsoever. He doesn't really do a good job of cutting off the angles. And still, a lot of people feel that Wallhead won that fight, and in the third round, when Wallhead finally finds the distance, he's able to connect with him. Now, Wallhead's only 5'9". When you look at this guy, he's 5'11", so he had 2 inches on him. Might be around that 6 foot mark. When I look at his opponent, Darren Till, same thing, 6 foot. He's got a 74-inch reach, so he's going to have the reach advantage. So even though the German's going to hang out on the outside, Ayari's just going to try to dodge him the whole time. If he cuts off the angle, uses that aggression that he's known for, closes him off, he's going to hit him at some point. He's got a great straight left out of his southpaw stance. He's got a nasty liver kick. He's slowed down the movement. Use that Muay Thai background and Luda Livre background, but predominantly the Muay Thai background, to hit the legs and slow this guy down so he doesn't have lateral movement. Judo Jim didn't do any of those things. And hey, Judo Jimmy's my boy. Everybody knows I love him. But he's also Journeyman Jim because he's been around. He's 34. He's turning 35. He never even thought he'd ever be signed by the UFC. So the fact is that you rob this guy in a really close split decision fight, really close decision regardless. I can't remember if it was unanimous or split. I think it was a split. But regardless, you barely grinded out Jimmy. You've taken a little bit of time off now, and now you're coming in against Darren Till. I just feel like Till's going to be the better guy. They're both 25, so it's not like one guy's over the hill or anything like that. They're both making improvements. But he already keeps his head straight up when he backs out, and I think that's just a recipe for disaster.
So you've gone 2 plus $9,000 guys. You've gone 2 punt guys, basically in the low 7,000s. The rest of your team is just right in the middle. Why?
Because that's kind of how it's structured. So look at the actual price point on stuff, right? If you look at the bottom end, it's all 6,600, 6,700, 6,800, 6,900, 7,000, 7,100, 70. That's all on a regular card. You get a couple guys that are $7,100.
Sometimes you don't even get ones that are below 7,000.
Right, but when you look at this card on a betting standpoint, it's minus 350, minus 400, minus 275, minus 300. So all the guys that are expensive are, look how many guys are almost 9,000. Let's say Kamozi's 9,000. And Chris Kamozi is $8,900. Let's start with him. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that are ranked above that? $9,600 for Marcin Held, a guy that's 0-2 in the UFC and hasn't finished anybody. He's 0-2. He hasn't even won, let alone finished anybody. You're going to pay that price point for him? It just seems a little crazy to me. So, yeah, you're right. I loaded up high end on the top, $9,500, $9,000, and then Nico Musoka at $8,500 because he's right in the middle. But look at that middle price point, right? If you drop down below Kamosi and Joaquim Silva, who I don't have a whole lot of faith in, there's only actually 3-4 guys that are in that range.
Yeah.
So you got to take cheap guys and expensive guys. And if there is a couple guys in the middle, try to squeeze it in. Nico Musoka, $8,500 is another guy that's coming off a long layoff. And I don't necessarily like that. I don't necessarily like the fact that he's taken a lot of time off. But he's still only 31. He's Swedish, fighting in Sweden. He's a guy that the hometown crowd is definitely behind. He's very long. He's a good grappler. And the way it looks at Bojan Velikovic.
Vich or Vic?
Velikovic.
Where's he from?
Serbia.
Then Vich.
Velikovic. Yeah. Croatian, Serbian. He's Serbian, yeah. But anyways, Velikovic, he's got really poor ring IQ, man. Like, his striking's okay. His grappling's okay. His cardio, it's okay. But there's nothing that he does exceptionally well. And you see him fight in the UFC. You see him fight in the regional scene. And if they're schmucks, he beats them, sure. But once he gets to the UFC, once he gets to that higher level, even when he tried over tough against Tim Williams, just that higher level, he's never really able to attain that higher level. So his last fight against Sultan Aliyev is a guy that was coming off a layoff. But what does Sultan Aliyev do? He's only got one trick, Pat. The guy can't strike for the most part. He doesn't do anything other than he can get a hold of you and he's a strong guy. But he's able to just out-grapple him. Velikovic needed that second gear and he didn't have it, quite frankly. When I look at Nico Musoka, he's going to be at home. He's going to have that hometown crowd behind him. He's going to be fired up. He's got training partners on the team. He's been training at a high level. He's eager to make his return. He should be injury-free. And he has the style to go out there and just out-grapple this guy. So do I see him going out and getting a finish? Not necessarily.
But he just needs a win here.
He just needs a win here. And especially on a cash game play, which it is, he just needs to get the victory, and I think he'll be able to go and do that.
Ben Saunders?
Ben Saunders, this is not my favorite pick in the world. When we get to the bonus play, I'll definitely explain more about that. But $8,400, I need one of those another middle pack guys, right? If I take Ben Saunders,
and there's no one you can move up to.
Well,
either.
if I take him off, I can't afford Joaquim Silva, who'd be $100 too expensive. So I'm stuck in that range of, okay, Ben Saunders. Now, Peter Sabata is not exceptional by no stretch of the imagination, but I do fear that Peter Sabata will be able to get a takedown, get takedowns. And the fact is that this guy's a black belt under Dean Lister. He's a Planet Eater system guy out of Poland, also trains a lot out of Germany. He's a very crafty guy. He's got good striking in the sense that he's got good output, especially with his kicks. And Ben Saunders is a guy that is 34 years old. He's getting older. He relies a lot on his grappling himself. But when you got a black belt on top of you, a lot of the time that's going to neutralize itself. If it stays standing, he's got good kicks too. He's got good Muay Thai. But in 3-round, hard, gritty 3-round battles, he hasn't normally prevailed. Now, his last time against Court McGee, he did prevail, but that was also a fight that saw him get taken down once. And if you go by the fight metrics numbers, he actually got outstruck by Court McGee. In what was a close fight, he did get a close decision. But if he's going to take it up a level, and I don't know that Peter Sabata is that taking it up a level, but Sabata's a crafty guy, and especially if he gets the takedowns, we're in trouble. Reason why we're taking Ben Saunders is that he shouldn't get finished, even if he does get taken down. And he's a guy that will do a lot of damage off his back. He's a lot of guy that'll have ground transitions. And theoretically speaking, because he's going to have a little bit of reach, he should have a striking advantage. He knows this is probably his last hurrah. He needs to do something here. This is a favorable matchup for him. He is a slight favorite. It's do or die for Ben Saunders. Ben Saunders might only have a couple fights left in him. That's what worries me. But he should be able to get the win here.
He better not be the guy who retires after the fight. We've had bad luck with those guys.
I've had bad luck with main events, man.
I
I can get
you know
other
what?
fights on the card,
It's
but
funny.
main events have been crushing.
I was going to bring this up to you because
Oh
in
my
all the other
God.
sports, even like in football, you can play just the early games or just the late games. In baseball, you can play, there's 6 games going on in the afternoon. You can just play those and not play the nighttime. If there was a prelim only DraftKings slate, we'd be up all the money.
All the money.
It's the main cards that wreck you.
Yeah, wreck me.
What is it?
You know what? I'm going to be perfectly honest with you.
Is it
main
because you know?
cards-
Is it because these guys are mispriced? Because no one knows them on the prelim cards, but you do?
Well, that's part of it, but part of it is I spend a lot of time looking at the prelim guys because there's just a lot to look at. Whereas the main card guys, you're like, yeah, I know what's gonna happen here. You know, Glover Teixeira's gonna lose, and then you go out there and you get knocked, and you're like, why didn't I see that coming, right? But you don't see it coming. You spend all your time on the prelim, so. I don't know. Hoping to have a good prelims. Ben Saunders does worry me. 100% he does worry me. And when I get to that bonus team, I went against Ben Saunders. I went against Peter Sabata because I definitely recognize there's a chance for Peter Sabata to get the win. And at $7,800, he's the better price guy.
Okay. GPP team, main GPP team. You're sticking with Till, you're sticking with Pedro, and you're sticking with Omarion.
Yeah, $7,100, you got to go with
But you
Omar.
went to Cherkinov here at 9,300.
Yeah, so this is a GPP, right? Obviously, we want to get those guys that are going to go out there and presumably get the finish. Pedro Munoz is not only safe, but he's got the great shot for the finish. Misha Cherkinov is the guy that's also safe and a good shot for the finish. He's 4-0 in the UFC. He's finished all 4 guys. Generally likes to get the business taken care of quickly. And against a Volkan Oezdemir, once again, it's just a good stylistical matchup for him. I mean, he's a guy that's spent a lot of time working on his striking, and we might not see great improvements or super quick improvements. I mean, a lot of people think that he looks very stiff and robotic striking, but there's no doubt that he's spending a lot of time on it, and he is making those improvements, and he's getting into a point in his career where he's comfortable enough to stand with better strikers long enough to get the takedown, and that's the key factor here. So when he gets the takedown, nobody has shown any inclination to do anything about it. Now, when you look at Volkan Oezdemir, he's a late starter to MMA to begin with, a guy that used to be roommates with Alistair Overeem, so he sees this guy
He's on
kickboxing.
steroids.
Maybe there was a good possibility he was back in the day, but he used to fight as high as 235 pounds. You know, he's a big guy. He was predominantly a kickboxer, and when he came to America, you know, he fought in Europe a little bit, decided to, just like any fighter that wants to make it big, wants to make the best opportunities, the best money, you come stateside. He comes stateside. He took on a wrestler who was an average guy, but good little wrestler, decent little grappler. He got submitted from a lackluster submission as well. That was a long time ago, but that caused him to go back to Europe and just go back to what he's doing, which is fighting schlubs for the most part. So now he comes to the UFC. It's a short notice fight. He had to cut like 50 pounds the week of or something crazy like that, although he wasn't the biggest heavyweight, so I'm sure most of it was water weight. But he gets this fight with OSP. Now, that's the kicker here, is that OSP was a ranked opponent. OSP was a big favorite. And OSP is a guy that has no ring IQ. So he just didn't fight a good fight, you know? Like, he was not aggressive. He had no punch output. He was not trying to cut off the angles. And above all else, we're talking about this guy's just pretty much a kickboxer. Take him down. OSP's got good submissions. He didn't even really commit to getting him down. And by the time he did commit to really trying to finish this guy, it was just too late. So Oezdemir gets a close decision. It's not a spectacular fight. It's a fight that OSP very much could have won. And if those guys fight 10 times, I don't doubt that OSP beats him again in the rematches, whatever the case may be. But because OSP was ranked, this guy instantly just
Vault up.
He just vaulted up. So they got him ranked high. He's within the top 10 in the UFC's official rankings, which is just ludicrous. But it also speaks to the fact that there's just no depth in this division. But Misha's a guy that is good. He's a guy that's still fairly young, has taken very little damage in his career, has looked good in his 4 UFC starts, and is a potent finisher. So when you look at the fact that he's not willing to just go and throw hands with a big striker, especially a guy that's taller than him and has a bigger reach, he's going to go in, he'll strike with him long enough to get the takedown. The takedown should come easier against a tall guy like this who doesn't have the greatest center of gravity, or has, doesn't have a low center of gravity anyways. Take the guy down, and once he is taken down, Misha just finds ways. The other thing, too, is even if for whatever reason he didn't get this submission, and logic would dictate he does, is that he'll get takedowns, and he gets a lot of ground transitions, too. He never just settles in guard. He'll get to side control. He'll get to half guard. He'll get back to side control. He'll mount you. He'll take your back. He'll flatten you out. He'll punch you. He'll just rack up points. So on a GPP, I feel like you could definitely take him. The issue here is if you're going to take Pedro and you're going to take Misha, you don't really have any
and you're going to
money.
take Till.
and you're taking Till, who's $9,000.
So you went with Alex Nicholson at 7,900. He's fighting someone named Hermansson, who I assume is Swedish.
Yeah, Jack
He has two
Hermansson.
S's.
Jack Hermansson's a Swedish fighter, excellent shape, a guy that's a banger, a guy that the issue with Jack the Joker Hermansson is that predominantly he's fought European talent in his career, and he's looked good for the most part, but he's had a couple troublesome losses in his career, but he's looked good. Signs with the UFC, duly so. He's earned it. I think he's a UFC quality guy. Gets his UFC debut out of the way against Scott Askham and gets the win. Now, Scott Askham's a guy that's just borderline UFC talent, but nonetheless, good win for Hermansson. Is the next fight against Cesar Ferreira here. Now, a lot of people are thinking, well, Hermansson's got some heavy hands. He's got a good, good solid base, hard to take down. He'll be able to clip a guy like Ferreira at some point, take him out. But Ferreira wanted no business striking with him. He took him down. He submitted him. And I don't expect Nicholson to do that at all, but it just really goes to show you that Hermansson's vulnerable,
He's
man.
just not that good?
Yeah.
He's okay.
He's okay, exactly. Like, he's losing at a level that I don't think he's going to be a world beater at any point. You can defeat this guy. And he relies a lot on his striking for the most part. But now that you see him get submitted against Ferreira, and Ferreira, if he's going to beat you, yeah, he can submit you, but you'd think he would just grind you out. The fact you get caught against this guy, it really shows that your grappling's not great. And against Nicholson, I would really hope that you rely on your grappling because he just throws heavies, man. This guy gets all up in your face and throws heavies. Mike Perry, the guy that just, the racist guy we talk about from time to time whenever he pops up here, it's his chief training partner. The guy's bigger than him. They have a similar style. This guy seems just like redneck hillbilly, but he's a Taekwondo black belt and he's got flashy kicks. The issue is that he's got losses against guys like Misha Cherkinov, who are good, but also he fades a little bit the longer the fight goes.
See, we want to win here quick.
It's a GPP.
Yeah.
It's a GPP
right.
bet.
And
even if for whatever reason he goes 2 hard rounds and gasses and can just hold on and still get the win, but we're hoping he goes out there and gets the finish. And there's certainly a shot that he goes out there and gets that TKO.
Glover Teixeira, $7,000, and he's taking on Gustafsson. Is this because Gustafsson's overrated because it's in Sweden?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a very, very good price tag on a guy like Glover Teixeira, A. B,
Glover Teixeira any good anymore?
He's old, but he's got the power. The power's still there. Listen, he didn't look exceptionally well against Jared Cannonier, but I'm sure he took Jared Cannonier lightly. And then prior to that, you look at the Anthony Johnson setback, but that could happen against anybody.
That happens.
Happened to Alexander Gustafsson pretty much. He lasted a little bit longer, but all the same, fighting Anthony Johnson usually, unless your name's Daniel Cormier, yields those results. So let's just take that out of
retired, didn't he?
Yes, he's opening up a marijuana business.
Oh, good for him. It's
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very lucrative these days.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Ian McCall, Uncle Creepy, who I would say fights in the UFC, but let's
Yeah,
be
but
honest here, he
he's
never
gonna
does.
put in like a bid for like an LLC to get a new place and then like back out at the last second.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, missed weight. Oh, hand infection. Oh, whatever the case is. Ended up in a hospital. Crazy stuff. But yeah, I just, when I look at Glover for $7,000, this is a GPP. Can he go out there? Can he throw those heavy, heavy hands? Can he land something in Alexander Gustafsson? Sure. We've seen Gustafsson get knocked out by Anthony Johnson. It was a lot of the same thing. Close the distance, land your big shots, knock the guy out. It's as simple as that. I do think that he doesn't deal particularly well against rangy fighters. We saw that John Jones, who just completely dominated the distance between them. And Gustafsson, in many ways, does not fight like John Jones, but should be able to dictate a lot of that distance and control a lot of the fight. But it's 5 rounds. And when you look at Alexander Gustafsson, even in the fights where he fought Daniel Cormier, and it was a split decision, but it was a hard 5 rounds. He got beat up. You look at the time he fought John Jones. Hey, there's John Jones. It was 5 rounds. Hard 5 rounds. Fought Anthony Johnson, he got knocked out. There's no denying he's got a lot of wear and tear. There's no denying that if it goes a hard 5, you can hurt this guy. You can rock this guy. Glover's got an underrated ground game, decent wrestling, BJJ black belt. His cardio, that remains to be seen, but we've seen him thrive in later rounds.
What are
against
the
guys
odds
like
on this
OSP.
fight?
I think Gustafsson's minus 350, going up to like 375 range.
All right, let's say you had to do the DK pricing this week. What would you have put these two at? Would they be where they are right now? Glover's 7,000, Gustafsson's 9,200.
Based on the, I'm making the DK
Let's
prices
say
based on the odds.
Yeah, you're just making the DK pricing for the week.
Yeah.
Where would you have these two just within the range of where this comes?
Yeah, to be honest, Gustafsson's pretty well priced. I think he's what, $8,500?
No, he's 92.
Sorry, yeah, he's $9,200. He's got 5 rounds to work with, right? And he's a big favorite. He's at home. He's definitely the favored fighter. He's done better against the better level of opposition.
But should he be 9,200? Should he be like 87? 700 and Glover should be like 75.
Yeah, well, saying that, you look at Marcin Held for 96, you look at Pedro Munoz, you look at Nordine Taleb fighting an undefeated guy whom people know very little about. The guy's a potent finisher, and he's Swedish, and he's at home, coming out of left field, and you're going to tell me that Nordine Taleb's $9,400? I mean, I don't know. Razak Al Hassan, $9,100. I guess I get it because he is a potent finisher, but is he really that big of a favorite over a guy like Omari Akhmedov, who's proven, who's got good takedowns, who's got decent ground control, who could make this a real ugly, dirty fight? I just don't agree with a lot of the pricing. But here's the thing. It's up to me to look at the pricing, see what I don't agree with, and then a lot of the time formulate teams based on that. I mean, I might look at a fight like Ben Saunders, and listen, $8,400, that's actually expensive for Ben Saunders. And I don't necessarily think he's going to win, but it fits. You know what I mean? You're putting a team together like a jigsaw puzzle, and you're going to end up with a couple guys
that you don't love,
who at the very least you're thinking, geez, this one's going to be dicey, and you don't know. It could go either way. But that's why when you're betting a 12-fight card, you don't bet every single fight, because even though you have an opinion about every single fight, it's just not smart to take every single guy. This is the same way, although you have to take one of those guys, because it's chance, right? And that's just how it comes down.
So what's your bonus team look like? So to explain this bonus.
Okay, I just wanted to make the bonus team only to just explain that a lot of the times people are like, oh, you know, you bet one single team, especially when you watch this show and we're providing
It's funny because I
teams.
don't. I play like 10 teams a week.
Well, the people that are winning money and the people that do play DK on a regular, they're the people that know that you have to play multiple teams, right? You just have to. If you want to, it's like if you were to go to a 50-50 draw at an NFL game, right? And they're selling 50-50 tickets.
You just buy one.
You buy one ticket.
Yeah, at least you got to get the arm length for $5.
Yeah, exactly. 2 arm lengths for 10. Which is the same deal as the 1 arm length for 5. But that's how they get you, especially when you've had a couple $10 beers at the NFL game. Anyways, you want to leave it up to chance, right? So you're going to have your key pieces. When you look at this team, Darren Till's still on it. Darren Till's still going to be my key piece. If I analyze the card, I don't think that he's the biggest lock on the night, but for his $9,000 price tag, that allows you to afford some other guys, right?
It's like how you have, what's his face? Akhmedov.
Omari Akhmedov, he's a guy that...
You have him on all 3 teams.
He's on all 3 teams, but to that point, and this might sound ludicrous, if I played 10 teams, he wouldn't be on all of those.
He'd be on 7 of 10 or something.
Right. The biggest point I'm trying to illustrate here is that you don't have to just take one guy and then say, I don't see any merit on the opponent. And so with that, I started to lead this team off with Alexander Gustafsson. I know in the last GPP, so we'll count this as a GPP, I guess, but you could play it in a cash game.
No, this is a GPP lineup.
Right. A lot of people, they'll see the boards and they see that I took Glover, and then their immediate thought is, oh, well, Cody's picking Glover to win the fight. No, it's just at $7,000 on a GPP team, I'm willing to take the chance. But if you're going to play multiple teams, you got to recognize that Glover's the dog for a reason, fighting in someone else's backyard against a favored fighter. You got to be able to recognize that. So this is just the fact that if you're going to make different teams, these are just different options that you can go. So Alexander Gustafsson, $9,200. This is a guy that averages 80 points. But also, when you look at those best performances out of his career, John Jones, Daniel Cormier, he can thrive in the later rounds of a 5-round fight. With Glover Teixeira, more built for a 3-round fight, so the later rounds should go Gus. And if the fight's going to end soon, maybe Glover lands that shot. But Gus has got a good power, too. He's got that ability to land something. Glover's someone who only lasted 13 seconds against AJ. So I think you could make it happen to a certain extent. But we're going to take him for 92. We're going to take Till again because he's a good price point. He's a guy that should be able to win the fight. If he doesn't finish, he should be able to rack up points. If he does finish, great. He got to finish first. Chris Camozzi, $8,900. I've recognized the dangers on Trevor Smith. I've seen that Trevor Smith can make this a really boring fight. But that being said, Trevor Smith's been knocked out 4 times in a minute or less. This guy's considered chinny. And Chris Camozzi, it just takes one shot, baby. That's all it takes. So he's got good enough takedown defense to keep the fight standing. Maybe for a round or 2, at least in the early beginning. He's still going to be fresh. He's still going to have some power. He could land that shot. He get the win. $8,900 I think is a ridiculous price point. But if I'm looking at this card strictly on who can get the finish, Camozzi doesn't jump at your attention, but when you're looking at the card as who's likely to get finish, Trevor Smith's always got a shot at getting finished. Alex Nicholson, same thing. We're taking a guy that's going to go out there aggressive. Nicholson's not looking for a points decision. He's a guy that's got a shot to win this fight, and the way he finishes fights, traditionally anyhow, is aggressive, in your face, land shot. That fight with Devin Clark, he's getting taken down in the early beginning, but every time he gets up, he gets in his face, and he pressures him, eventually lands the kill shot. That's what we're expecting out of Nicholson. That's what we're hoping out of Nicholson. Peter Sabata is fighting a guy in Ben Saunders. It's an aging Ben Saunders who might have one foot out the door.
And we use Ben Saunders in cash because the floor is there, theoretically, but he could get work.
Yeah, I really look at his last performance where he goes out and he scores 3 good takedowns against Nicholas Dalby. And with those takedowns, once he gets you down, you're not getting up because he's a high-level black belt. People look back to that Kyle Noak fight where he got knocked out in 1 round with the toe stab. It's a toe stab. Shit could happen to anybody, man. Let's be realistic here. But it's an embarrassing way to lose, and people aren't super, super high on Kyle Noak. So for that reason, people just aren't on Pierce Sabata. A little bit older, but a guy that has good ring IQ. I know I keep using that term. He makes smart plays. He makes smart decisions. And Ben Saunders is pretty easy to take down. He really is. So Sabata goes in with the game plan of use my kicks from the outside, chew this guy's leg up, chew this guy's leg up, chew this guy's leg up. At some point, Ben Saunders, a traditional guard puller, is going to end up on his back. Sabata's going to end up on top, and Sabata has nasty top game. So this is one of those fights that I don't think's a finish, though it's a possibility. But the takedowns, the ground control, the submission attempts, the ground and pound that you can sprinkle in there in the mix, I think he's a guy that can get that win, and I think for $1,700 is good. Akhmedov, he's got to go in there, not necessarily swinging. Best case scenario is that he just takes his time, lets Al Hassan tire out. And when you look at Duke Rufus's gym, for the most part, and this is not everybody, but just look at the guys that Duke Rufus has really built himself, the guys like the Pettis brothers. What they all have in common is awesome kickboxing. I mean, flashy striking, creative, good kicks, stay on the outside, good footwork, good movement. They all got that. What they all also have is poor takedown defense, poor grappling. Good grappling, actually, not bad grappling. Like, it's not like Anthony Pettis is fish out of water. But the higher levels of MMA that you go, the guy on top is just harder to get an armbar on. It's harder to just get a triangle choke from guard. And against Akhmedov, he's a guy that's been around the block. He trains with good guys. He's learned from his mistakes, hopefully. And I just think it's a stylistical matchup that should be able to favor him. I don't mean to say that I would play him on every single team I played. I know it seems that way because I've played him on everything. But $7,100 I just think is a good price point. And when you look at the people below him, I do not like Damir Hanzovic because he's likely just to get grappled if he ends up on his back the whole time. This is a guy that might be able to go the distance for you, Pat, but he's one of those guys that will score 15 points going the distance. When you look at Damon Stasiak, he's likely to get out grappled big time here. If he lasts the distance, he's going to get 10, 15 points. Oliver Enkamp, we just don't know enough about him. And when you look at his opponent, Nordine Taleb, he's been looking better. He's 35 years old, getting a little bit older. We've got a good TriStar game plan behind him, good training partners, always shows up in phenomenal shape. And even though he's coming off that loss against Santiago Ponzinibbio, he showed some grit in that fight. Prior to that, beat Eric Silva and looked really good. So right off the bat, we don't like the first three. Volkan Oezdemir, I mean, likely, do you think this guy's just going to clip Misha Churkinov? You're just betting on a one, maybe he lands something. Chances are he's going to get taken down. He's going to get out-grappled. So we've already looked at the first four guys. We don't really like them. Glover, we know the risk on Glover, and we've played Glover, but we've also seen good flip side of Gustafsson. And then who's the next guy? Mario Akhmedov. I don't like the guy above him in Yasin Ayari. I don't mind Trevor Smith, which we've talked about. Reza Madadi's coming in on a short notice. He's a guy that is so unbelievably durable, he might be able to go the distance. But people really don't favor him in this matchup. I think if you're looking for a dog with a shot, he's got a shot. This is not a card that's going to be dominated by the favorites. There's a lot of big favorites on the card, but surely some of these dogs are going to come through. And they call this guy the Mad Dog. So if you're going to bet on a dog, why not take the one who's really, really mad and has also done jail time for stealing ladies' handbags? Moving on from that, Bojan Velickovic, I can never get behind that guy ever again. Pierce Sabata, don't mind, like him, see some merit, just as we talked about. Alex Nicholson, see some merit, he's got a banger style. Jack Hermanson might be able to come out here, and this would be his coming out party. At home, in Sweden, has a good performance. People will really open their eyes. But a lot of people always write off Mike Perry in the same way, that just because you don't like the guy, you can't just discredit him. Nicholson's going to get his dues eventually. He trains hard, he works hard, he's got a funny personality to casual fans anyways. The UFC is looking for this guy to be something. Either the European prospect defeats him, and it's good for the European market, or this guy defeats the European prospect, and it's good for the American market. We've seen this happen before. Nicholson's got a shot.
And now we're just on to the other side of the fights.
And now you're just going on the guys that are 8'4", 8,400, 8,500, and at that point,
so I get it.
They're the big favorites on the card, right?
Cool.
That's pretty much how she goes.
All right, so those are the lineups. Oh, I wanted to ask you, this Mayweather-Conor thing's not happening, is it?
There's certainly a possibility.
It's not happening.
How many times did we talk about Mayweather versus Pacquiao? Like, that went on for years and years and years.
Yeah, but eventually Mayweather's going to be like 70 years old. How old is Mayweather? He must be 40.
Let me ask you this, Patrick. Are you ever too old to get $100 million?
No, but until they concede to whatever. It's okay. So Dana has I'll handle the negotiations. You can make this much. Conor can make this much. Floyd doesn't want that. Floyd's like, here's my contract, you sign it.
Yeah, well, that's why it's going to be tough for negotiations. But eventually, if the UFC is looking at this like, well, Conor McGregor's not fighting for us currently, we're offering him $10 million a fight. And he knows that even if he signs a bullshit deal with us, he'll get 50 out of it. If the fight generates $200 million in purse, let's say, for the sake of argument.
Floyd wants 175 of that.
No, he'll settle for 100 because it's $100
He
million.
won't. No, he
yes,
won't.
he
He
will.
no, he
Yes, he
won't.
will. His last fight, he took like 30. Why would he not take 100 here? It'd be ludicrous.
He is the bigger draw in this fight. At least when he fought Pacquiao.
$100 million, Pat.
I get that it's $100 million, but he knows he could get 150 for it.
What's the biggest contract in pro sports right now?
I don't know. It was A-Rod who had like $400 million.
For how many years?
I think it was like 8 or 10. I think it's Harper now. Harper or Trout. Baseball contracts are huge.
And it nets him, let's say, what, 50, 60 million a year?
No, it doesn't.
What does it net him a year?
Probably like 30.
30. This guy's going to get paid $100 million. You can't tell me he's not going to turn it down. Come on.
Put it this way. I get that he wants the money.
Yeah.
And I get that $100 million is a ton of money. But he still needs to... He wants to win this fight just by winning it, for one thing. 2, he wants to win it in the negotiation part of it, too, because apparently Floyd loves doing that. And B, this fight doesn't mean anything if he's not in it.
Yeah, but no, it doesn't mean anything if McGregor's not in it. The last time Floyd Mayweather fought, the last couple times he's fought, really, I mean, there's no interest in it. If I told you, oh, Floyd Mayweather's fighting this weekend against Marcos Maidana, or he's taking on Roberto Guerrero, or he's taking on Victor Ortiz, or he's taking on Andre Berto, there's no interest. But there's an interest of Conor McGregor. There's an intrigue. Why? I don't really know because I think
he's going to win like 20 seconds?
Nah, 20 seconds is a stretch, but like the third or fourth round, right? I don't personally see it, but there's no doubt there's an interest. Now, that being said, if it was Floyd Mayweather versus a bear, there'd be interest for that too, right? That's just the world we live in. So that being said, there's interest. But the interest comes from having two sides of the coin here. He can't just return to boxing and take on a schlub because we've already seen that there's nothing there. But you're right. He wants to win the negotiation process. The thing is, the guy can't even really read. And I know people might be being, that's Cody. That's not right to say. Can't really read. So he still wins in the agreement. You just got to trick him into knowing you're getting paid $100 million. Conor is only getting paid $50 million. You're getting paid twice as much as him. But the UFC is getting $50 million. But hey, you're getting twice as much as them too. So you're getting twice as much as both parties. But technically speaking, you're only getting half of the pot.
I don't think it happens.
Money has a crazy way of making things happen.
All right, I will say I don't think it happens this year.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But that being said, what do we got Mayweather at 39? I mean, he's got to...
You got to get going.
You know what? Truth be told, he doesn't really got to get going because he probably still wins this fight even at 43, you know? But he's a reflex-based fighter, and you don't want to end up like James Toney because once those reflexes shoot, and you're not going to end up like James Toney, let's face it. But what I'm saying is once the reflex gets shot, they're gone, right? And he takes so much time off in between fights that you can look back at his last couple of fights and be like, doesn't look like a shot fighter, but you talk to people in the industry and they say that shit happens overnight, especially when you're sparring hard, especially when you're working hard, especially when you're running those miles, especially when your knees are getting older. The reflexes just slow down. That's just human nature.
How old's Conor?
29?
Okay.
Just had his first kid, though.
I feel like he has wear and tear on him, though, just from getting hit. And Mayweather never gets hit.
Well, the other thing is you look at how many times does a high-level MMA fighter pull out of a fight 4 weeks out of a fight. You look at how often does a high-level pro boxer pull out of a high-level fight 4 weeks out. The distance is astronomical. Boxers don't really get hurt in the gym because what's there to get really hurt on? You're going to get flash knocked
You might hurt your hand.
Yeah, but even then, you're wearing 12-ounce gloves, 16-ounce gloves, sorry. You're wearing, like, oven mitts in there. You have head protection for the most part. And people are like, I don't like the head protection. You don't actually need head protection. I'm not an advocate of necessarily wearing the head protection. One of the two guys have to wear it because of head clashes. Because if you head clash bare head, both of you guys, you're going to split the guy open like a hatchet. And head clashes just happen, man, bobbing and weaving, right? But if one guy's got headgear on, neither of the guys is going to sustain a cut. So that's why you see that sometimes in sparring anyways. One guy's got it on, one guy doesn't. If they both got it on, who knows? It's a false sense of security a lot of people claim, and it just causes you to be like, yeah, all right, I can take shots. It's like, no, man, you can't take shots. And nor should you be just taking shots in an unpaid environment like the gym. But sparring's a part of fight preparation, so you have to do it, right? And you hear a lot of people say, I wish I would have sparred less, but that's how you get your timing down. That's how you get your rhythm down. And nobody's meant to fight forever, so you just got to take those right precautions and make sure you save yourself.
All right. I don't think it happens this year.
I'm going to guess it happens...
September?
September of what?
This year. Do you think it happens this year?
No, definitely not in September. If they're going to do the Gennady Golovkin fight versus Canelo, I don't think they do it for a good 6 months after that because that generates 1 million+ pay-per-view buys. I say that because if you look at Canelo versus Chavez Jr., it did 1 million buys, which is pretty shocking, I think.
Well, it isn't. It happened on Cinco de Mayo. That seems to be a big boxing
And
day.
they're both big stars in Mexico, right? But that's what you need. The biggest thing here, and the same thing, Canelo could fight a schlub, and it's not going to matter, right? If Canelo fights Austin Trout, nobody really gives a shit. But you got two guys that are over in their respective countries. Whereas Mayweather is a pretty big international star, sure, but certainly a star in America, where he is the highest paid pro athlete, and you do see him top those lists. And he is somebody that is a recognizable household name to a lot of people who are into sports. And you look at Floyd, and you look at Conor McGregor, and he's another
Same
guy
way.
that is the same thing. So you're bringing two sides of the
And he
argument.
has good international appeal as well.
So when I hear Floyd Mayweather say stuff like, "Well, I'm the A side," I don't.
He is the A side, though.
No.
If it wasn't,
Sure.
Conor goes back to UFC and fights whoever, and it does X amount of pay-per-view buys.
Okay. Let me ask you this. This is straight up. I don't even have to ask you this. Let me tell you this.
Okay.
Floyd Mayweather, has a fight against the number 10th.
Some guy I've never heard of.
The number 10th
Sure.
ranked contender.
I'd probably still watch it.
You probably watch it, okay? It gets 350,000 pay-per-view buys.
Does he go that low? Floyd?
Yeah, look at Andre Berto. Dude, honestly, you'd be shocked with the numbers. You'd be shocked with the numbers, man. People are always like, oh, he does astronomical numbers, right? They're not great. And if you check it and it is 350 and I am wrong on that, it's only 500,000-600,000. It's not the number that you'd expect, okay? Conor McGregor always seemingly gets 1 million pay-per-view buys. He gets twice what this guy does. You look at the next biggest stars in boxing, guys like Miguel Cotto. They're doing like 400,000 at best. 400,000.
So where's the money coming from then?
In boxing?
With Floyd.
Equal distribution.
But is it like international buys because people around the world still watch boxing?
If it got 1 million buys, right, at $60 a pop, then it's $60 million?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're shooting at the 2 million buys, which is like Pacquiao Mayweather, right? So now you got 120 million just on those pay-per-view. Then you got the people that are physically going to the arena and paying thousands of dollars to be there. And then on top of that, you've got the concessions and
Which Floyd owns a part of somehow.
right. So if you do it as a standalone pay-per-view and you're generating 120 million just off the pay-per-view, you're adding all those other figures and it gets to that 200 million, then the UFC's promotional outfit is the promotional outfit. So they would get the 50, which they're not okay with. They want way more, right? They want it all, as far as I'm concerned. You got Floyd, who's going to bring some promotional muscle back into it as well because he's got a promotional company. And then you got Conor, who apparently seemingly now has his own promotional company, but that's just the way things work in boxing. So if you're just trying to split the pie between them, it's greed, right? It's always, I can make some more out of this. And if you're Floyd, you never even intended to have that 50th fight. He retired at 49-0. He said that would be the last bit. He said he wouldn't try to break Rocky Marciano's record, but here he is, sticking around, trying to break the record. I don't know. It's just, if you're going to do it, this is certainly the last one. And you got to be realistic here. This is Floyd actually being smart. Kudos to his intelligence on this one. If he wanted to come back for one more fight and fight a boxer,
He might lose?
Who's he going to fight? Whoever he fights is going to be a professional, and he's going to be a former world champion, and he's going to... Manny Pacquiao's fighting Jeff Horn right now, and that's crazy. But at least Jeff Horn's a guy that's undefeated, who's got some power, who's got some skill. You're still going to have to fight a guy that's likely in the prime of his career. You're still likely going to fight a guy that's going to pose a serious danger to you. So what do you say? I'm done. I'm just going to retire. I'm done. Now people are saying, well, Conor McGregor wants to fight you.
Okay.
What? Who? Conor McGregor. That's that MMA guy? Yeah. What, does he box? Well, they said he was, as an amateur, he won the Irish title. Okay, but does he box professionally? No, but he fights MMA. And then you watch fights like the Nate Diaz fight where he's just on the outside getting slapped because he can't even keep his hands high enough. And it's like, oh my God, I would murder this guy. And you're going to pay me 3 times more money, at certainly twice, maybe 3 times more money to fight this guy than I got paid to get my last fight against Andre Berto. Easy decision. So I think that's what lured him out. And if you're Conor McGregor, you just had a kid. You're 29. You said he's starting to get a little damaged.
You take this fight, even if you get knocked out in 20 seconds, you're set for life.
Yeah. Let's say he takes this fight.
He's probably already set for life.
Yeah, I would say so. And
You'd
here's the
hope
other
so.
thing. If he fights against Floyd and he gets paid $50 million,
and loses, no one really cares, do they?
No one really cares. He can go back to MMA. But do you want to go back to MMA fighting for $10 million a pop, fighting 5 times? You know how much damage you've taken 5 fights when you're going to fight Tony Ferguson? Then they're going to make you fight Khabib. Then they're going to make you fight Rafael Dos Anjos. Or no, you decide to jump up and fight Tyron Woodley. It's like, these are all bad bad choices, man. And I just can't see Conor McGregor being down a fight 5 times to make 50 million as opposed to fight 1 time and make 50 million. Especially when Floyd Mayweather's not known as a power puncher later half of his career. You watch the first half of his career. God damn, that guy can crack. Mostly because speed and volume, but the precision just absolutely overwhelms guys. God damn. But he doesn't really fight like that anymore, you know? He's more of a defensive counterpuncher now, and he's not looking to engage for the most part. He's not looking to take any damage for the most part. But if Manny Pacquiao can't even hit this guy over the course of 36 minutes, Conor McGregor's not going to be able to do it. And if he does do it, it'll be like the Marcos Maidana fight. Swarm him, land a couple grazing shots, make it a dirty fight, and then he'll solve you. He'll figure it out. He'll beat you. It's just the way it goes. The other thing is that apparently Mayweather's a minus 750 on the hypothetical
I would hammer
line.
that.
Hammer it. Hammer it, hammer it. I'd like to see the inside the distance prop too. I don't have that currently.
Cody Saftic. Check him out on Twitter at CJ Saftic. You're on the MMA report with Pollock now, right?
Yeah. John's actually been very nice to me to let me come on and shoot the shit with him once a week. So yeah, good conversations, man. It's a different type of conversation. I don't
Really?
just,
So you're talking to someone who actually knows about MMA versus me?
Oh, we're talking about like news and stuff.
Oh.
You basically just give me a platform. Like here's a microphone.
Just go.
Go. Yeah. Talk about.
Please tell me so I can win money.
Yeah, but hey, I like it. So
any good bets on this card?
I'm not gonna lie.
Or is it just too uneven?
I'm still looking at the card on the betting perspective because you're going to want to put parlays together because they're such big favorites. So you're going to want to put 2 or 3 of these guys on the same ticket. The thing is, there's inverted risk with any MMA fight, but especially so these lesser-known guys and these European talents. They haven't fought at the highest level.
Like your boy Oliver Enkamp, who could just be awesome for all you know.
He could be awesome for all I know, but it could also be a situation like that Felipe Oliveira guy versus Shane Campbell. I've seen Shane Campbell fight literally 40 times, right? Between his kickboxing, like his Muay Thai career and his MMA career, like I've seen this guy fight many, many times. I know he's good. I know what he brings to the table. I know he's durable and crafty and a decent submission game and all these different things. This Brazilian guy is an unknown guy, never fought anybody, comes out of left field, blasts him in like a minute and a half. It's going to happen. These things are going to happen, right? In Enkamp's case, he's on short notice. He's at home, which is going to be a benefit to him. But Nordine Taleb's just durable, man. Like, even if you're going to beat him, Ponzinibbio can't put you away. You got some serious durability to use. And he's in great shape as always. So I think he pulls it out. But, yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? You can never, even if you do your due diligence, even if you do all your homework, even if the one guy, you've looked at it tape, you've looked at it on paper, you've looked at it from every different angle, once that cage door shuts and the fight starts, you never know, right?
All right, I'll do it. On the Pat Mayo Hour, you can follow the Pat Mayo Hour for the audio versions, anywhere where you can download a podcast. Get it for free. Listen to it there, or go to YouTube, whether it's the Fantasy Sports Network YouTube page or the Fight Network YouTube page. You can do that too. And this is a weird card too. It's Sunday, 10 a.m. it starts.
Yeah, so I also
You get the extra day.
Yeah, normally they cater to the North American audience, and they're like, oh, well, we'll just make it at 2 o'clock in the morning in Sweden. It's like, don't. This is a European card for the European fans. They deserve to be able to watch this in prime time as far as they're concerned. And I know I got to go to your fiance's birthday. We won't talk about age, but
that's why you got to come, though.
Not get too boozed on the Saturday, not drink too much boxed wine, especially.
But we have so much boxed wine around.
So much boxed wine. Also, CM Punk.
Yeah, challenge.
Can't handle it. Sean Merriman? Pff, who this guy?
I know.
Who this guy?
CM Punk's been good on the challenge.
Ain't shit. He scored 40 points for my team. I also had Sean Merriman, though.
I have Punk on my team, too. He was like
$9 or $11? He's $11.
$9. He was the cheapest guy on the board.
Wow. Yeah,
And then he got into it with Johnny Bananas.
10 points for the drama points. Yeah.
And Johnny Bananas was like, you're a loser. You lost in the UFC.
Okay, I'm not going to lie, right? I thought CM Punk, not the most physical guy. Wrestling, right? He's not one of those big juiced up guys. What he's got, he's good on the mic. He's good at the psychological play. He's good. Johnny Bananas held his own, if not beat him there, you know?
Well, Johnny Bananas is good at talking. That's the one thing that he does. CM Punk, though, came up with the biggest strategic...
Johnny, by the way.
Yeah.
People don't want to hear about this here, but yeah.
But here's the thing with CM Punk. He made the smart guy, I think. I think he knows what he's up to.
Smart guy.
And he made the biggest strategic move because if people don't know what the challenge is, it's the stupid show on MTV that we both watch because it's awesome. But CM Punk is on it now, along with other professional athletes. So the final challenge was you were blindfolded and you basically had like a stick. It was like blind fencing. So you had to have a partner tell you where to go to hit them. So he picked the one British person. He's like, oh, I'll be able to pick out that voice. She's British. No one else is.
No, the guy's super smart, especially when he was just like, they're talking strategy and she's like, he's left-handed. He's just like, oh, okay. Just pivots over and hits him. You know, it's like, the guy is smart. I've also said the same thing, okay? Imagine if you were a fly on the wall. CM Punk walks into Dana White's office and he's like, I want to be a professional cage fighter. Dana White goes, oh, yeah, but I like you. Hey, do you mind leaving me and my son a couple tickets the next time you're in town? Then CM Punk goes, no. I want to be a professional cage fighter. And Dana White goes, you're in. You know, like how did he convince him?
Well, he probably convinced me. He's like,
no,
hey,
he gets what he wants. He's psychological warfare.
CM Punk would be like, I'll get you 300,000 pay-per-view buys. You're in.
500. Well,
Five,
additional.
was it five?
Considering he probably added 300,
Yeah.
you know. Last point on that, which I think at least to get this audience back into the same page.
Floyd Mayweather versus CM Punk.
He had CM Punk. This is the biggest takeaway that I had from the entire thing. Okay, he gets the British chick to corner him essentially, right?
He does
in
a
this
ninja
little
roll.
fencing.
Which was awesome.
Beyond the ninja roll, he's blindfolded. He tells her, he goes, my natural instinct is to just rush in there. No! That was your natural instinct in your UFC fight against Mickey Gall when you just ran in there and got pulverized. Clearly, don't trust your natural instinct, okay? And what does he do? He ninja rolls. And by the way, he loses the first match.
Yeah.
Wins 2 and 3 and beats Sean Merriman. So I'm glad he's going through. I do have him on my team. I wish him nothing but the best.
I think he might be a professional challenge guy from now on.
The move, this is going to sound crazy, Pat, but mark my words, the move is not fight Floyd Mayweather if you're CM Punk. The move is try to get another fight in the UFC because they'll give you a pay-per-view cut and you can be some serious money. But get released, probably, sign with Bellator. Kimbo's kid fights in Bellator now. He's 0-1. Or sorry, he's 1-1 now. He was 0-1. He just won on the weekend. 170 pounds, same weight class.
CM Punk's 170 pounds?
Yeah. Baby Slice, also known as Kevin Ferguson Jr. Kevin had 6 kids. Kimbo had 6 kids, all named Kevin, other than his daughter. Her name was Kavina.
Oh, so it's like a George Foreman effect.
Yeah. So now you've got Baby Slice versus CM Punk in Bellator. One guy's 1-1, one guy's 0-1. That's the kind of fights you gotta make.
I mean,
not putting him up against a brown belt. Good God.
All right, that'll do it. You can follow Cody on Twitter at CJ Saftic. Of course, you can follow me at the PME. Good luck this week playing some UFC Stockholm with the Yorps and the such. Let's put some cash. Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.